the Senate expected to vote shortly on the final version of the Republican tax reform bill. Meanwhile, there is a problem with the House vote, Houston, and there'll have to be a do-over. In fact, here's a live look at the Senate debate. Senator Dick Durbin, Illinois, still speaking. Let's listen in.
We're watching C-SPAN at night. I came to the floor when we finally were given the Senate tax bill. It was about 500 pages long. And as I was going through it on page 257, I remember the page, I looked at it and I thought, what is this? There was a page in the middle of the tax bill with all sorts of scribbled handwriting, which was absolutely impossible to read. Now remember, this is a tax code.
If you're just sort of following this afternoon, they took the vote, but then somebody noticed that there were some procedural problems, some Senate rules problems with the final version that was voted on, so they had to scrap that. Now they're back at it again tonight, debating. There may be changes. The vote is expected to be close, but Republicans are confident that they will be able to muscle the bill through. It would be President Trump's first major legislative victory. CBS reporter Weijia Jiang is at the Capitol right now, where Republicans are already celebrating this. A done deal, Weijia?
Not quite, but just about, and that is exactly why they are taking a victory lap, even though it's not exactly, the ink isn't dry yet. But tomorrow the House will likely have to vote again. That's more of a formality, but we aren't expecting any big changes or surprises, and that means the president will likely get his Christmas wish. Remember, he wanted a bill to sign before the holiday.
Table.
House Republicans call this vote a big win for the American people.
This is one of the most important pieces of legislation that Congress has passed in decades to help the American worker, to help grow the American economy.
The GOP's $1.5 trillion tax overhaul bill sailed through the House, but the bill now has to go back there after two provisions were found that violate Senate procedural rules. The provisions will be removed and the House will revote Wednesday morning. Every Democrat is once again planning a no vote.
You know who this bill is going to help? Corporate special interests, the wealthiest Americans, and yes, the Trump family.
The final bill merges earlier versions from the House and Senate. It doubles the standard deduction and slashes the corporate rate to 21%.
The bill's next stop is the Senate, where former Republican holdouts are now ready to vote yes.
When it comes down to your final vote, is our country better off having this once-in-a-generation opportunity for tax reform?
Senate Democrats see this bill as tax breaks for corporations and the wealthy, with virtually no reform.
This piece of legislation is the single worst piece of legislation I've seen in my time in the Senate.
Democrats are also concerned about the bill's provision of repealing the Obamacare mandate, which requires Americans to carry health insurance or pay a penalty.
You saw it live just a bit ago. Senators are still debating now, going on 5 hours, so we expect that vote at any moment. And then it's on to the next challenge. There are only 4 days left to find a way to fund the government and avoid a shutdown. Ken?
All right, Weijia Jiang reporting live from the Capitol. Thank you, Weijia.
And here's a look at what some of the biggest tax changes might mean for Californians. The bill caps the state and local tax deduction to $10,000. But according to the LA Times, about a third of California taxpayers take an average state and local deduction of about $22,000. Supporters argue the doubled standard deduction will help offset the loss. The bill also allows the mortgage deduction on new loans up to $750,000. Earlier versions of the bill capped it at $500,000. Rural neighborhoods won't likely see a difference, but it could have a bigger impact in the Bay Area, where it's harder to get a mortgage for less than $750,000.